Well, welcome back to Two Pastors and a Mic. My name is Shannick.
And I'm Corey.
And we're so thankful that you're joining us
Yep.
wherever you're listening from. We do appreciate you. We would also appreciate, if you haven't already, please leave a review. You can do that on Apple Podcast, or you can like this or rate it on Spotify or wherever you're listening from. We would appreciate hearing from you.
Yeah,
and so
do it.
we would also love it if you want to reach out. You can email us, Shannick or Corey at hillcity.tv. Let us know how this podcast has been blessing you. Maybe it's been just a great,
you.
I was going to say, maybe it's been a great resource, or maybe it's been super challenging, but you appreciate that. We would love to hear from you. Matter of fact, we went out to dinner this past week with a couple who love the podcast. And this couple brought up how, like, some of the things that we're talking about challenge them, but they're also really receiving and realizing that, man, there's life in the words that we're sharing as well. And that was just very encouraging to hear. And so
I love that.
We're words of affirmation guys. So it was a lot of great affirmation for us. Also, if you're joining us on YouTube, thank you for watching. We appreciate you.
Had a lot of views on YouTube. People like looking at us. So
you know what's crazy is I've never looked at any statistic on YouTube. I've never even watched one of our episodes that have been posted on YouTube.
I've never watched either.
Not one.
So I don't even know if the words are lining up or whatnot.
So I just listen while I'm driving around. I don't know if you do. You will listen to the podcast we do, right?
I do listen back. Yeah. To make sure. Because I listening to yourself sounds so weird to me.
It is so weird. I don't do every episode. I do almost every episode. There's a few that's like, that was a good episode. I don't need to listen to it. But I'll drive around and I got other podcasts. And then when it's finished, it'll just play the next one in my queue. Well, then Two Pastors and a Mic come on, and I'm like, oh, man, do I want to listen to myself or not? But I always ended up listening to myself, and it's kind of weird, but I encourage myself, and you encourage me sometimes, too, while we're listening to this.
I love it. Hey, before we get in today's episode, let's do a quick update, because there's a lot of things going on in my life, big things I want you to be aware of and help support if you can or if you love me or whatever. No manipulation there. Just we appreciate the support. But also, there's a lot of awesome news happening with our initiative here at the church. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and then share that prophetic letter that we got?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So many of you have heard that we started this initiative that we're calling the RE initiative, R-E, just meaning again or second chances. And it's all about restoring homes, redeeming stories, and rethinking church. And there's all kinds of re's. Like me and you came up with like 15 that we could have used, but those are the 3 that we stuck with that were really impactful. But really what we're doing is finding homes, fixing them. The first one that we have, we didn't realize quite how big of a job inside was going to be, but it became a complete gut job. So down to studs. But we're restoring this home. And then it's going to be for unwed or single mothers to be able to transition from different programs that other ministries are offering in our community. So we're partnering with them. And then one of their biggest hurdles in getting the moms just kind of back on their feet and further along in life is affordable housing. And so this is the initiative that we took on, and it's been going amazing so far. This past week, all the inside stuff got roughed in, plumbing, electric. We got the inspection passed. So drywall is going up literally right now as this podcast is airing and as we're recording it even. And so, it's a big deal. And I still have a deadline. I would love to have a family in there by January 1st, and we will see.
So how can people get involved if they want to get involved? Not just physically, but financially.
Yeah. So first, physically, you can just show up. We usually have teams showing up every Saturday morning from 9 to noon, only 3 hours. Right now we're at the point, it's just some small jobs that, that need accomplished each and every week, whether it's cleanup, whether it's a little painting. Like this past week, we had just a little bit of insulation work, the great stuff, foam and stuff. We just went around the windows and behind outlets and things like that. So it's jobs like that we have coming up, and you can go to hillcity.tv. There's the main banner. You just click over a few times on the main banner and click that link. It takes you to the Sign Up Genius, and there we have the jobs listed, the times, what you can show up if you want to do something specific like cut the grass or paint or do cleanup, whatever that may be. Or if you specialize in something, email me, whether it's trim work or cabinetry work or countertop work, all that stuff is coming up.
Yeah.
And if I don't get help, a lot of that stuff, honestly, I'm just going to be there by myself doing it.
Yeah.
Or trying to recruit a few guys. But I would love if you have a special skill or just want to come by and see the property, to sign up for that. Also, maybe you don't have margin right now and you can't get away, you can't show up. You can also give to this. You can go to hillcity.tv, hit the give button, and then when you go to give, there's a drop down menu. If you click that, it's defaulted to general, but at the bottom, you'll see the housing initiative, and just click that, and all the money will go straight towards purchasing material or the labor expense for this house.
Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity for people to get involved. I've heard a lot of great feedback from people. Tell about that letter that we just got on Sunday.
So this past Sunday, I show up, I grab my coffee, and a lady came up and said, man, I really got to share this letter with you, or not a letter, this piece of paper that I found. And I've been thinking about it, and I went to go look for it. Like, man, do I still have that note section that I took from a long time ago when this guy named Dwayne White came into our church? Well, she found it. And it's like crumpled up piece of paper. Basically, it had notes from a sermon that Dwayne White preached when he came in. But then at the bottom of it, he
What year?
also, 2013.
Yeah.
So
February
10 years
17th,
ago. February
2013.
17th, 2013, around 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The same time that I started getting the vision for this initiative, 10 years later, we launched it. Crazy. And at the bottom was a prophetic word he had given to our church, and it talked about like really putting Floyd Knobs on the map, making impact in the Louisville area, but it's going to be done through housing for single moms and unwed mothers.
Specifically said
And
housing for single moms. Isn't that crazy?
Specifically said that, and that this church was going to be a beacon of hope and light to single moms in our community.
Gives me goosebumps.
So-
I've been talking about that the whole week. Like, that is just crazy.
Yeah.
Because you forget about those things, and I'm so glad that she wrote
completely
that
forgot.
down,
I
and here
know.
we are doing it. And man, that's just cool. I got a lot of big things coming up. In fact, next Tuesday, October 24th, I got this incredible opportunity to write the introduction for a book called Free to Give. And it's a book written by several authors, big name authors, people that I look up to.
It's like 10 or 12 authors, right?
Something like that.
Or more.
I think 13 total. And theologian Francois Dutois is in it. I'm going blank right now. Malcolm Smith is in it.
Don Keithley, I think, was in it,
Don
right?
Keithley, Matt Pandell,
Paul Young.
Paul Young,
Who was here
is
on
in
the
book.
podcast,
Yeah,
is
who's
on the book.
Yeah, crazy. So the fact
Or is
that
in the
I
book.
got asked to do the introduction for it, it's a huge honor. But it's all about how new covenant giving is inspired by being a generous giver from just a cheerful heart, and it's like debunking the tithe, which very controversial book for a lot of people that may have never thought about that. But I promise you, it is so good. I got to read the book and write the introduction, so I'm pretty proud.
You shared 2 chapters with me, not the entire book, but I was encouraged by those 2 chapters.
Yeah.
The way that they wrote them in the storytelling way of writing,
Yeah.
it was very captivating and very good.
Yeah, and not one author touches on the same thing, which is kind of crazy when you ask that many people to talk about a specific subject and not one of them hit it from the same angle.
Right.
Is kind of cool. And so, yeah, that book is called Free to Give. It's out on Amazon October 24th. I encourage you to get it. And then my book, honestly, it's, in my opinion, the best writing I've ever accomplished or done. It's coming out November 1st. It's a 21-day devotional called What If I Told You? And I'm asking you, if you know me, love me, even if you don't like me, would you support me in this endeavor of buying the book when it comes out, trying to pump it out there? So
Yeah, so you'll hear about more. You'll hear more about that next week, but then in 2 weeks, November 1st, that Wednesday, a day we release the podcast, we'll tell everybody how to order that, purchase that, and maybe start going through the book
a
the month
little
of
bit,
November. That'd
one
be
by
amazing.
one, for sure. So we're going to continue in the 7 series. Some people will be like, how many episodes are you going to do on this 7 stuff? We don't know, but we got a fun one. It'll be a simple one. I love this conversation just because I think the English word for what we're going to talk about has totally messed up our understanding of love. And so today we're talking about the 7 Greek words for love. And I like this conversation because, again, think about it. We use this word in our culture and context to describe my love for Julia, my love for pizza and guacamole, my love for shoes, my love for my job, my love for you, Shannick, is all
Your
the
love for the Detroit Lions
Detroit
and the Red
Let's
Wings.
holler at all Detroit sports. I love all Detroit sports. Hey, this is the greatest time to be a Detroit Lions fan in the history. I read an article on ESPN that said this is the best Lions team in the history. So whether you're a 90-year-old fan or just starting to be a fan, it's the best time to be a fan in Detroit Lions history, which is not saying a lot because we just have overall sucked. But I'm really excited about that. Yes. But we use this word love, and it's not the same thing. And I think the Greek does such a great job expressing the different levels of love. They use 7 Greek words. I think only 3 of them are found in the scriptures. And so maybe if you didn't know about these Greek words, we're going to unpack these real quick.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be a real in-depth into these 7 words, just basic understanding of them, what they represented, and then we really want to get to the last Greek word, and you'll understand why when we get there, because we really have to unpack that and how really maybe we, and when I say we, I mean the church, needs to do a better job of showing that kind of love.
For sure.
And the first one is basically ludus, and this is a playful, flirtatious kind of love. I imagine this kind of love to be done with your spouse, your significant other, and there's just a lot of lighthearted play. Let's say it.
It doesn't always have to be with the wife. The flirt you got messed up because of the word flirtatious, but it also could be playful. I do a lot of ludus love with dudes making fun of things.
Okay.
I'll
You
go
should have
there.
started with this one then.
Well, I introduced a good game to the Netherlands friends, and a good game is just a
little tap on the
tap on the
behind.
butt, but you have to say good game so you don't make it weird. So it's still weird, but it's fun and everybody laughs, and it's just a playful. I think of ludicrous when I think of ludus.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I first thought of as well when I read that.
Luda, for sure. Number 2 is pragma, which this is long-lasting, committed partnership. And so think about it. I think the best way to describe pragma is like when older people lose their significant other and then they get married again. It's not necessarily their eros love or the other loves that we're going to talk about here. It's more of just that commitment to a partnership. You don't want to be alone. And so pragma is very pragmatic. Is that the right word? No, that's problematic.
No, there is a word called pragmatic.
Yeah, what's
it
it
means
mean?
very like practical.
Yeah.
You actually like
Look at that.
to,
So it did tie in.
to do things.
I wonder if our English word
you're a pragmatic person.
came from the Greek word pragma,
It could have.
because it's just long-lasting commitment.
Yeah,
But
and the partnership, and probably it does because you think about the things in love that are action instead of words. Like that would be pragmatic. A pragmatic person wants
sure.
to show and demonstrate by all the things that they do that they love someone or that they care, right? And so,
and this could describe like a really good business partnership that actually lasts, long-lasting commitment, partnership, that kind of stuff. So
absolutely. The third word is it's pronounced philasha, philasha, and basically this means self-love. And I would say this is another very important word, or even an understanding, because it's one of the things that I feel like, people look to the Old Testament a lot, or, when Jesus got asked a question, what is the greatest commandment? He answered it with love. He's like, how do you read it? He goes, well, love your Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, Jesus said, well, do rightly and live. Well, we know New Covenant understanding of the command and the best law is the law of love, and it changed to love as I have loved you. Jesus kind of changed the understanding, because we can't just say the best laws or commands following Jesus is love the Lord your God and love people, love them, as yourself, because a lot of people don't even like themselves,
Right.
let alone love themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you don't love yourself, then how are you supposed to love others?
Right.
So then we change Jesus changes it to, okay, the understanding is love how I've loved you. But this is very important, this philasha, because I think people do have to have, people should have a self-love and a love for self. Not in like a negative type of connotation, but just an appreciation for the fact that they're alive, with their uniqueness.
Yeah. You should love yourself the way that God loves you. And that's going to really challenge your idea on what pride and humility actually is, because the most humble thing you can do is love yourself the way that the creator of the universe loves you. We're going to come back to that probably. The fourth one is eros, and this is the kinky love. It's a very erotic, hence eros, short for erotic. This word is not actually in the scripture, however, because it's a Greek word, but however, it is portrayed in the Old Testament book of Song of Solomon. And the Song of Solomon, they actually, in their culture in the ancient times, they weren't allowed to read Song of Solomon until how old? Do you know off the
I
top of
want
your
to say
head?
13, but I'm
I
not
think it
for
was
sure.
older than that.
It could have been.
They weren't, because it was so provocative. And we read it through an English understand. We don't understand the hyperbole and the metaphors that are used. It is a very erotic book, and they use some terms that I wouldn't encourage you to use some terms towards your wife, because I don't think she'd be fond of you calling her neck as long as a giraffe. You know, but yeah.
Yeah,
So this
like
is
a
like,
tower. Yeah, but you know what I think of whenever I think of this idea of eros, and you tied it into Song of Solomon, dude. There's this guy that we follow, been a partner, someone we've looked up to for years, Dr. Lynn Hiles,
Mhm.
and he came in at a conference a few years ago and basically tied in Song of Solomon straight through it, as in that's like Jesus and the bride, us, the church,
I
and it
love it.
was like so crazy. I've never seen like this erotic type of love tied in with Jesus and the church, but he made it brilliant. I don't know. I probably got
I've
to go
never
back
heard
and
that. Yeah, I need
you
to.
you weren't there at that conference?
Maybe I don't remember it.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Okay. It was memorable for me because that's all I think about
Well,
now when I
obviously.
think of Song of Solomon.
Eros. So maybe you should have some Eros type of feelings toward your spouse right now. You should press pause and send your wife or send your husband a text, a naughty one. We encourage that. Your turn.
I was waiting to see where you were going to go with that, but I guess that was it. All right. The next one is philia or phileos, and this is the brotherly type of love. Of course, everyone uses this analogy, but Philadelphia, right, got its name, and it's even known the city of brotherly love.
Which, if you've been there, they're pretty much the city of brotherly love just to themselves. They hate everybody.
I have not been there, actually.
Go to an Eagles game or a 76ers game or a Flyers game, and they will, they're like European football people where they
Hey,
fight.
they're passionate
They're
fans.
hooligans for sure.
Yeah,
Continue,
they should
sorry.
be. No, it's okay. I really don't have a lot of other things to say about that, other than there is a connection and a bond really with someone, and they're like family. They're like a brother. There's protection. There's safety. There's wisdom, and when you have that person, there's a love for that person, and they would use philia.
Philia. The sixth one is storge or storgo, and it is non-sexual love. The best description of this is like a parental love for kids. So I love my kids with a storga type of love, and it's again non-sexual, non-sensual. This is just full on, pretty much, parent to kids. So I said that twice, but
No, it's all good.
It's good love.
Yeah, and it's separated out, and I like that because there is a certain love that I have for my kids that's hard to tie in to any other type of love.
Right.
Because of the understanding that they're my kids and I want the best for them, and there is this deep sense of love. But back to what you were saying, we use love for everything. The same way you love your, you love pizza, you love your kids.
Yeah.
This is why this is a cool thing to kind of understand the different levels. And then you get to the last Greek word that we're going to talk about, and it's the highest form of love. It's the God kind of love that he has for all of humanity. And the Greek word there is agape.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, basically it's without conditions.
Yeah.
It's unconditional love. There's no conditions that will remove it or limit it in any possible way.
Which is so hard for us as humans to think about, because I've had conversations with people. I don't know if there is any human being that properly lives in agape love, because I would used to say, I always will have agape love towards my spouse. Well, I say that, but there could be circumstances in the future that would put conditions on our relationship. Infidelity is one of them, you know what I mean? And obviously, hopefully that's nothing I have to deal with, because I know a lot of people that have been able to deal with that and overcome it and whatnot and still have love for their spouse. But it's just one of those things that agape love is so crazy to think about. In fact, I was someone put this post out the other day, and I was really challenged by it. They said, can you imagine what would have happened if the younger prodigal son would have had an interaction with the oldest prodigal son before they came into contact with the father when they were coming back? And it's this whole idea of how critical and limiting the older brother would have been in that moment. And they tied it into, that's the representation that many of us have towards people that don't know Jesus, and they see us, and if we're not representing agape love, then we damn those people before they get to experience the Father. And I thought, man, that is an awesome picture of even that story.
Well, it really is. That's actually the first time I'm hearing that. And that actually blows my mind to think, yeah, if he would have encountered the older brother in the field, let's say working while he was coming home, the older brother would have chased him off. You're not welcome here. You're not wanted here. Dad doesn't love you anymore. Like, you smell like, pig crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You better go wash yourself up, clean yourself up. Maybe if you come grovel, you can be one of my servants kind of thing. And they want power, control to be able to dictate that.
And that's a lot of people in the church.
Yeah.
And we represent the Father. And here you have a lot of people coming to experience agape love, and maybe they don't even know what they're seeking. But if we are not representing the Father well, we are the oldest prodigal son, portraying the Father in an unagape way. I just made up a word before they get to experience agape love, which is so challenging, man. We put so much conditions and make people jump through so many hoops. I just preached about this past week on what the gospel actually is. It's a very controversial sermon, but I was talking with someone last night about it. Once I have experienced what I've experienced now, I cannot go back to what I used to present the gospel as. I can never go back. Even if I lose every relationship, what I have now in my relationship with Jesus, I tell people I used to preach a lot about God because I knew about him, but I didn't know him. Now, like experiencing this and the visions that he gives me, yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling. And I think once you understand agape love from God, which again is really hard to understand and it's a process, I think you can better have philasha towards yourself. Because again, self-love comes from knowing how God loves you. Mm-hmm. And once you know how God loves you and are able to love yourself as you are, then you're actually able to love other people well. So
that's actually a beautiful cycle.
Yeah.
You're able to experience love from the Father. You get this agape love, which then helps you start to love yourself more. When you get a better love for yourself, then you're able to help and better love others, right? And so then once you do that, wow, I even get a bigger view of God when I'm serving and helping and see how beautiful people actually are and not having this judgment towards them or label towards them. Man, the encounters that I've had around the world where I've just experienced new cultures and new people, not only has it been so exciting and liberating and amazing for me to experience that, but it's given me not only a bigger worldview, but now that I have this bigger worldview, I just have such a bigger view of God, which then in turn, man, I have a better view of myself, which then helps me able to love others better as well. And so, yeah, it's this amazing cycle once you start to realize the unconditional love that God has for you.
Yeah, so good. So those 7 words are ludus, pragma, philasha, eros, philia, storge, and agape.
Yeah, and I think the challenge is this, and back to what you said and what I said on this cycle. I remember a sermon, actually it was just a few weeks ago that you preached out of Ephesians chapter 3:17. We were in this series called Full of It, and you talked about, yes, we're full of the Spirit, but because we have the Spirit, we have this power. But then you looked up like the power that we have because of the Spirit, and the power isn't to go out there and destroy or wreak havoc or whatever or be arrogant. The power, according to Ephesians 3:17 through 19, is to know how high and how deep and how wide the love of God is for you, that it's overflowing towards you. There's no conditions put on it. And then once you understand that, the power in understanding how loved you are, then you're able to go and love others and fully walk out the command that we're under in the new covenant.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? I never put that together until that week studying it. It was like, oh my gosh, the power is to know how loved you are. And what is it in our culture and society that we are so unsatisfied with knowing how loved we are? That's something that, as we sign off here, you can wrestle with this week and maybe just have an experience with the Father to remind you how loved you are. And it's why we close this podcast every way, the same way. And I've even had text messages from friends that, I just roll my eyes at that. It's just the same old, until they experienced unconditional love because maybe they've made some choices that they're like, wow, it made sense. I've actually been texted by a couple people that are like, it makes sense. I used to roll my eyes at it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not just some cliche. It really is one of the most powerful things that we say, and that's why we end the episode every single week the same way. But before we end, I do want to plug your book one more time. The one that's coming out is October 24th.
Yep, free to
give. So that's just next week, right? Which is crazy. And then the week after that, your book. Make sure you stay tuned. Join us the next few weeks as we unpack that more. You'll hear more about it. And then starting in November, we'll start taking little sections and different days from that devotion and unpacking them as well. So if you haven't bought it ahead of time, once you hear us talk about it on the podcast, I'm sure you will want to purchase it
Do it.
after that. So just do it. Take us up on that, and be looking on socials for all the information, how to order and all that. But until next week, just know you're loved and there's nothing you can do about it.